Today, Charlottesville, Virginia is under a state of emergency, and Washington, D.C. is in a state of high tension ahead of an expected march by white supremacists on the White House. My guest, Terry McAuliffe, was governor of Virginia back then, and now he's on a cross-country tour promoting Democratic candidates and possibly, it's been speculated, laying the groundwork for a run for president in 2020. Governor McAuliffe, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. So you strongly criticized President Trump a year ago for his response to the white supremacist protests in Charlottesville, and you called a lack of leadership by him. Here's what the president tweeted about the anniversary this weekend. He wrote, quote, "The riots in Charlottesville a year ago resulted in senseless death and division. We must come together as a nation. I condemn all types of racism and acts of violence. Peace to all Americans." Is that good enough, or do you have concerns about that statement?
Well, first of all, I should have done it a year ago. I was there in Charlottesville to see these neo-Nazis and white supremacists, about 1,000, walking down the streets, screaming the most vile things about members of the African-American community, about members of the Jewish faith. I'd never seen anything like it, Jake. People used to wear hoods in this country because they wanted to disguise themselves. They don't feel they need to do that anymore. And I talked to the president that afternoon, explained to him the situation, what had been going on, what these people were doing in the city of Charlottesville. And when he came out and gave his statement that it was both sides' fault, I got to tell you, it was shocking to me. It wasn't both sides. You had one side of neo-Nazis wearing Adolf Hitler T-shirts, the white supremacists screaming obscenities at the African-American community, walking down the streets. They came armed. This wasn't both sides. And the other side were the folks who were protesting against hatred, like Heather Heyer, 32-year-old Heather Heyer. And it was unfortunate that the president did not use that opportunity. He came out and blamed both sides. It wasn't. You know, there's a time in your presidency when you need to show moral leadership, when you need to stand and send a message to the world. He failed that day. I had to go out, as you know. I followed him an hour later, told them to go home. They're not wanted in this state. They pretend they're patriots. They weren't patriots, Jake. They were a bunch of cowards. But we cannot let 1,000 people really hurt the reputation of a state of 8.5 million people or a country of 325 million.
So let me ask you a question about what happened last year. Obviously, no one here is defending the Nazis or the white supremacists. Yeah. What they said, what they did was heinous. But there has been criticism about whether or not the city of Charlottesville and whether or not the Commonwealth of Virginia was adequately prepared. The Charlottesville mayor says the policing was inadequate. Take a listen.
Our law enforcement, you saw the videos last year, their behavior was absolutely unacceptable. You need to see them react very differently to the situation than they did last year, so people feel safe. So we have a lot of work to do to regain trust.
Moreover, an independent review last year found that Virginia State Police did not adequately share their plans with the local police. You were governor of Virginia at the time. Again, the fault is with the violent Nazis, white supremacists, et cetera. But would you acknowledge that there was a failure at the city level and maybe even at the state level to adequately prepare?
Well, at the state level, we put unprecedented resources. Huge contingent of state police, 600. I called out the National Guard for the first time since 1930 in anticipation. So we helped Charlottesville. We sent down our resources. Under Virginia law, local control. Even though the state and the National Guard, the local are in control. That was not a good decision. So commission I put together, we subsequently have changed it. This year, the state police were in charge. So no longer are local authorities in charge of a situation where the state sends resources. So we were able to fix it. The second thing we worked on was the permitting process. We had requested that it not be in Emancipation Park. It's a tiny little park. It needed to be moved to McIntyre, a much bigger park. You want to keep the protesters separate. Unfortunately, as you know, the city filed to move it. The ACLU sued them. And at 9 o'clock at night on Friday night, the judge ruled with the ACLU against the city of Charlottesville. So everybody was put there. But the good news is the commission I put together, robust permitting now, that will never be allowed to happen again. And now state will take control in situations like this. But I want to commend the brave young men and women who were out there fighting every single day to keep our cities safe. They did a very good job. At 11:20, I ordered a state of emergency. Finally, Brian Moran, my Secretary of Public Safety, called me and said it is untenable. The permit wasn't even supposed to start till noon, and we cleared the park in 11 minutes.
I want to move to some of the national political issues. There's a lot of energy in the Democratic Party right now on the left. As you know, potential 2020 candidates, Senators Elizabeth Warren and Kirsten Gillibrand, say that they want to abolish ICE. There are at least 2 Democratic socialists who are going to be members of Congress in 2019, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York. She just endorsed a congressional candidate in Minnesota who's made a number of anti-Israel comments, including saying, quote, Israel has hypnotized the world about their, quote, evil doings. Are you worried at all about the direction of the Democratic Party?
Well, first, I don't like all these labels that we have today. We've got big elections coming up in 2018, and we need to be focused on that. But I support candidates who support the values that I believe in. You know, pro-economy, pro-jobs, everybody gets health care. That should be the message of our party. Like in Michigan, I went up and endorsed Gretchen Whitmer. We won up there, but you know what, the next day, the other two candidates came to the luncheon. We all came together at the end. So I believe as we go into these elections, it's about the values, what you stand for. As governor of Virginia, I focus on jobs every single day. With a strong economy, I put the largest investment in K-12 education in the history of Virginia. You're able to invest in your priorities, and that needs to be the message of the Democratic Party. I don't spend time talking about Donald Trump. I don't. I talk about what we can do. I have traveled the country. We have 36 governor's races. These governors are critical, Jake, because they will be in the chair in 2021 when redistricting comes around. And we're going to have a huge win. Maine and Michigan and Illinois and Wisconsin and Nevada and New Mexico. Those are going to be pickups in Florida and Ohio. We got great opportunities this year.
You say you don't talk about President Trump, and that's not your message on the stump. But after the president's meeting with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, you tweeted out in part, quote, the president has violated his oath to preserve, protect, and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's a very strong charge. If you think the president violated his oath of office, do you think he should be impeached?
Well, first of all, imagine this. If President Clinton or President Obama had gone to Helsinki and done what President Trump had done, you would already have impeachment hearings going on. This president went over with Putin, who is our sworn enemy. The issue of poisoning individuals, what he has done all over the globe, this is not our friend. He is not our ally.
So should you?
Russia's
so do you want to impeach?
Russia's economy is smaller than Italy's. They are our 30th trading partner. Why is he over there elevating this country and this president to a level of a superpower, which they are not?
You said he violated his oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Do you think he should be impeached?
Well, I think there's something we ought to look at. Clearly, what he has done with Putin, he is a foe. He fights us every single day. We are battling him all over the globe, including, what's happening in Ukraine, what's going on in Syria today. But there has to be a reason, Jake, why he is over there acting the way he acts about Putin. Then inviting him here and then saying he may go over there. This man is our enemy. He fights us, and do not forget that they came into the 2016 election. They came in and tried to destroy the greatest democracy in the world, the United States of America. We cannot forget that, and now we're hearing this week that they're continuing their efforts. They're undermining our country. He is our enemy. We should fight him and quit bear hugging him like Trump likes to do.
Looking at 2020, Stormy Daniels' attorney Michael Avenatti was in Iowa this weekend at the Wing Ding fundraiser for the Democratic Party, where he offered a critique of the Democratic Party, saying that the Democratic Party must be a party that fights fire with fire. When they go low, I say we hit harder. He says that it's time for the Democratic Party to not nominate a politician. What do you think?
We'll see what happens with 2020. I bristle when I hear about 2020 just because we have so much at stake. 36 governors, the House, the Senate. Our future's on the line this year. And it really, these candidates should not be talking about 2020. We have too much at stake. We need to make sure we have a check and balance on President Trump, winning the House and Senate, and these governors. I mean, the rollback of rights is happening in states. That's why we need to pick up. We're down to 16 governors. We need to pick up these governors going forward. 2020 will come soon enough. But when 2020 comes, I hope everybody runs. But our message as a party ought to be, like I had in Virginia, how do you grow an economy? Unemployment went from 5.4 to 3.6. How do you invest in education? I had the restoration of rights of more than any governor in the history of America, a progressive governor with progressive values who is pro-business, growing the economy with good-paying jobs. That's the Democratic message.
All right, Governor McAuliffe, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.